Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Old. And this movie is directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and it came out in 2021. And this was like the only M. Night Shyamalan film that I haven't seen before that he made post Sixth Sense. And I finally watched it, and I thought it was pretty bad. Not his worst movie, for sure. There are other films that I think that are worse than this, technically, like from an objective standpoint, and also just like I don't know, in terms of to some extent entertainment value, it's a bit better than something like The Visit or Glass, I guess. But if you want a funny bad movie, you would go to The Happening or The Last Airbender. But this movie was just particularly dull, and just I couldn't really get into it. And there were a couple things I kind of liked about it. Some of the shots are okay, and this movie definitely tries to have a style and to just like give some visual flair to each scene, but it doesn't really feel purposeful. Unfortunately, it just kind of feels like random ideas going about, and like I'm kind of just trying to give something nice to look at in every scene, but it doesn't really feel like it's motivated really. But with that being said, the movie didn't look terrible for the most part. We'll get into when it does look terrible, but for the most part, I thought it was fine. And also, the music I thought was okay at points, even if it did sound very familiar to many different scores that I've heard before, or just in general, it just felt very familiar to what I've heard before. And one of my biggest issues with this movie is that the characters, they all kind of were written to be kind of weird, which is fine to some extent, but it was done to a point where it was just distracting for me. And I also didn't find any of the characters to be interesting or likable, and they all kind of seemed cold and distant to one another. And sure, it's on a beach packed with strangers that no one knows really, but at the same time, it just doesn't feel like any of them are like happy to be there, or even the people that certain characters do know there, they just don't really seem like they like each other. The child performances I thought were pretty weak in this movie, and there were points in this movie where I honestly couldn't even understand what they were saying. And there were points in the movie where the shots were just way too close and I couldn't really make out what was going on. Sometimes it was just close ups on faces, or like in the action scenes. This is a problem that I've had with M. Night Shyamalan for a while, and I think it's after The Sixth Sense because it doesn't really focus on this really much at all. I'm not sure if I've said this before, but he's really not good with directing action sequences, and that was kind of made apparent to me right after I watched The Village for the first time, which was not too long ago, and I realized he's not very good at directing action at all. I can't name one action scene that was like well done or satisfying or like really memorable. It's all kind of just, yeah, that kind of happened, and you're just kind of moving on. And sure, there's not a whole lot of action in his movies. I'll give them that much, but even the small amount of action that we do get is just not very good. And for the record, the only movie I can think of off the top of my head where that doesn't really apply is The Sixth Sense, because all of the action in that movie is kind of somewhat implied, and it's just left up to your imagination. Like when the one kid gets stuck in the attic or whatever, and you see the balloon popping, you can just imagine what's going on up there. It's just left up to your interpretation, and that's all you need. But in this movie, they kind of show it kind of somewhat, not really, because this is a PG-13 movie, so you can't show anything too extreme, I guess. There was also a point where the movie looked like the frame rate changed for like one shot, and it was very distracting. I was like, what is this? This doesn't feel right. It feels inconsistent with the rest of the movie, but I know that's kind of nitpicky, but it did stand out to me. And the whole concept of the movie is just a beach that turns people old. Is not really that interesting, but I decided to check it out just because I wanted to complete all M. Night Shyamalan movies, because I'll probably do a ranking of all of his movies someday. But anyway, topic for another day. In this movie, I never once felt a tension at any point. All the action was just too goofy for me to take seriously, or I couldn't make out what was going on, or I just didn't like any of the characters. And that was one of my biggest problems, is that I didn't care about anything that was going on. And when things got revealed as to like what's going on in the movie, because that does happen in the film, it just kind of comes across as unsatisfying, because at that point I didn't care what was happening. And you might be wondering, at what point did the movie officially lose me? And I would say about minute 5-ish. And there were certain things in this movie that just didn't really make any sense. Like, they tried to establish, your hair doesn't grow because it's already dead. I was like, it's only dead on the outside. What are you talking about? Same thing with fingernails, man. That's why fingernails don't grow. But now that I think about it, the reason they probably didn't want to make a character's hair grow longer, or fingernails or toenails grow, is because that would have been a bit impractical for the budget. That would be my best guess as to why they decided to do that. And this movie does have an $18 million budget, which is not too small. Like, you can do something with it, but I do have a feeling that a good majority of that money went to the actors and also M. Night. The movie is also very repetitive for what it is. It's just the same thing happening over and over again with zero progression whatsoever. And I also found this movie to be too long for what it is. Could have been 80 minutes long and you wouldn't miss anything, really. Maybe even an hour. That would have been much better the more I think about it. And the only memorable parts of this movie were just like moments of action, whether it be climbing up a wall, or delivering the baby, or removing the cancer scene, or just like in action, like stabbing a guy to death or whatever. Those are like the only memorable parts about the movie, and maybe also the ending. But most of the movie is very forgettable. There's nothing that really stuck with me, and I guess this is something that you can say with M. Night Shyamalan films. Like, in terms of a sticky quality, there wasn't really anything there. And for those who don't get that reference, I believe that was from an interview that he gave on Lady in the Water. Like, he's always looking for that sticky quality, something that's going to stick with you. Like the stickiness of something. And that's about all I have to say about Old. Not as bad as something like The Happening, The Last Airbender, Glass, or The Visit, but it's still pretty bad. I'll never watch it again. Maybe the only way I would watch it again is maybe with a director's commentary, or if I'm just rewatching it for a list ranking, if I don't do that too late to the point where I've kind of forgotten all about this movie. But I honestly don't really want to watch this movie again. With all that being said, I'm going to give Old a 2 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of Old, and my social media links. They will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for The Brutalist. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.